The Dancing with Wisdom podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Dancing with Wisdom podcast with me, Snora Hager, and it's great to have you again with us, Elliot, as we have these fascinating conversations.
Absolutely, and it's the first podcast we're doing today, and I just want to share with everybody what you just said when we was about to press record, where you just said, well, at least we don't have to do our hair.
That's right. One of the great things is we don't have to worry, is my hair in place all right? And I was just thinking, it's fine, because I feel a little bit of rush of air going, and I think, well, it actually doesn't matter if it's moved something. It doesn't matter because there's no hair to worry about. Here today, gone tomorrow.
I feel really inspired today, especially after hearing your podcast with Mark Green.
Thank you.
Really amazing. And I've got a line written down here, and I want to jump straight in today, if I may, Sunil.
Okay, go for it.
And I'd like you to make some sense of this and explain, please. Okay, so I'm just going to say one line. 5 uncomfortable truths we don't want to hear, but hold the seeds of wisdom for all of life. Please explain.
Yes, that's right. Those 5 uncomfortable truths. See, the thing is, there are things about life that the society and culture, as it were, tells us, maybe not directly, but it's in the atmosphere, it's in the air. And we just assume this is the way it is. But actually, they're lies, and they have incredibly destructive and negative effects on us. And what I was hoping we can do today is go through them one by one and really just pick them apart and just try and help, well, as we talk and the people watching and listening as well, really help them to think about how much they've allowed these lies, I can't even think about it to say really, lies really, falsehoods that have in a sense, again, using strong words, it indoctrinated us into a wrong way of thinking, which has led to bad outcomes for us.
And you used the word uncomfortable.
Yeah, well, they're uncomfortable because we don't really want to, as it were, look at them directly. But I think there is power when you look at things directly, when you embrace the uncomfortable, because that, as it were, you go through the short-term pain for the long-term gain. As it were.
Oh, I like that. I feel like that should be on a T-shirt.
Short-term pain, long-term gain. Yes, like that. So they're hard topics, but I think as I hope people watching and listening can see, there's actually great joy and encouragement and fulfillment that comes working through them. So should I kick
Start off number 1?
So number 1 is that life is hard. Now, again, everything in culture says life shouldn't be hard. And in a way, we've never had it so good, okay? Technology, comfort, hot water, nice showers, beautiful weather. We have this picture in our minds, if I have the money, the relationships, everything, I can just sit up and relax. But actually, the reality is life is hard. And when things don't come out, we put people's Facebook feeds or their Instagram feeds, and they're smiling, they're cheerful, they're on the beach, everything looks hunky-dory, looks wonderful. But it betrays the fact that actually life is hard.
Well, you say about Facebook, it's a front, isn't it? It's like people don't want to. Some people do. Some people actually only use Facebook for that. But a lot of people like to disguise the hard and almost like put on the front that they're having this wonderful life with their children, the wonderful holidays, the wonderful days out.
Yes, but I think obviously, you've got to find safe people within which to talk about the tough things of life with. So I'm certainly not advocating that you just put it all out there and you start having again, somebody who is a recovering pessimist, okay, someone who has tended to look on the dark side of life and been a glass half empty kind of person. I'm saying that you do need to have a positive view of life, but accept the fact that life is tough, because when things go wrong, there are 2 problems. One is that something bad happens, death, betrayal, disease, disaster, okay, and we say, this shouldn't be happening to me. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is not right. I've done something wrong, or somebody else's fault. Who am I going to sue for this kind of thing? We go into blame, excuses, and denial. We blame others. We find excuses, or we go into a kind of victim mindset about it. We get very angry, and we somehow think this shouldn't be right. This shouldn't be going. I've worked hard. I deserve better than this. When actually the response should be, this is a fallen world, and terrible things do happen. And it's a gift that I've been given every day, that I have the privilege and opportunities I have. There are people who would give their right arm to have the life that I'm living. There are people who are struggling. And so I think, I think it was Buddha who said, life is suffering. That's the first noble truth of Buddhism. And there's truth in that life is tough, life is hard. No matter how good or impressive things can appear to the outsider, we all have our own personal struggles that we're dealing with. There's this quote that I really love is, be kind to everyone you meet, because everyone is going through some kind of struggle that you know nothing about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reality. All of us, the fact that you're existing on this earth means that you're going to face trials, temptations, struggles that are going to stretch you. It's part of being human. It's part of the journey. And there's something about the fact that when you embrace actually that life is hard, and you embrace the hardness, that you realize that God is using that to train and develop and grow. It's like going to the gym. If I go to the gym, I put myself through short-term pain for long-term benefit. It's like, if you think about in the gym, the muscle fibers get stretched, and they get stretched to breaking point. They break. But when they heal stronger. And there's something about trials and problems and difficulties that, if you like, are spiritual weight training for us. And I'm not saying to say that that necessarily means that we have all the answers, because terrible things do happen. Loved ones died suddenly. People betray us, all sorts of terrible things. And I'm not going to say that I have all the answers why that is, and that you'll even know the answer, even in this lifetime. But we have to trust that there is someone who is working behind the scenes for his greater purposes. Because what's the alternative? I moan, complain, I blame others, I become a victim.
Eat too much and
comfort eating, all that kind of
get
stuff.
unhealthy.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go through. Excuse me. Let's go through all of them.
Yeah.
So we've done number 1. Life is hard.
Yeah, I'm just getting my
and get the notes up. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what we can do about it at the end.
Yes. That's
Okay.
right.
So number 2.
Well, number 2 is, again, you don't want to hear this. You're not important, Elliot.
How dare you?
I'm not important to Neil. I mean, humorously, the world is made up of, I think, around 6 billion people. Okay. And the world consists of other people, all right? And I love to think, that the world revolves around me. And yes, in one sense, because I'm living in my body and it's the only one I've got, I look at it from my perspective. But actually, I'm not really that important, really. But the problem is my ego. See, that's the problem. We've got a whole chapter in the book on managing your ego in Dancing with Wisdom. And it's both an asset and a liability. And the problem is that I'm continually trying to make myself important. I'm continually trying to say, I continue to either putting myself above other people, saying I'm better than them in some way, or jealous.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is how you approach importance.
Yeah.
Because one would say that God might consider you very important.
Well, yeah.
But at the same time is that your actions could be important if they were in the right place. But are you talking about not important in an arrogance?
Yes, I'm talking about you are not important in a sense. It's that unhealthy pride that basically looks to put me above other people, or even the other way around, or puts me below other people. It's this tendency for comparison. C.S. Lewis talks about pride being the worst of sins. And the reason it's worse, it's the worst of sins, worse than murder, betrayal, adultery, cheating, all those kind of things, is because it cuts you off from other people. So if you think about, say, a group of thieves, okay? A group of thieves are obviously doing wrong things, but they can still be friends. Whereas a group of proud people can never be friends, because there's a reason for their pride. They're superior than everybody else. They're the inner circle. They're the core. They've got the inner knowledge. But the moment one of those people steps out of line, they're out of the group. That's it. You can't. You don't deserve to belong here because you've let us down. That's why pride is so dangerous. And Keller, I think, has this phrase, which is a constant, ruthless, unsmiling concentration on the self. It's chilling, actually. It's ruthless. It's constant, it's unsmiling, and it's a concentration on the self. It's all about me. I'm
Mm.
important. Why, why do they ignore me? And again, we all go through this. I mean, I can talk about this, but I think, well, why did he not talk to me? Why did he ignore me? Why did she not mention me? It's very deep rooted, and it's from this basic insecurity that we have. But you're quite right. We are important to God, and it's because of Christ's love to us that we are important. So it's realizing that I'm accepted for who I am.
I feel like I want to ask as well. So mutual respect. That seems to
Yeah.
pop into my head. So
Yes.
you say you're not important, but it'll be a positive to see the other person as important.
Exactly. Yeah. We are all equally valuable. In the sense every human being is made in the image of God, and so there is a divine spark, a divine light within each one of us, and we need to learn to honor and respect that. I'm from an Indian background, and the phrase is namaste, and namaste means I bow down to the God within you, to the image of God within you. I mean, that's the way that I like to look at it.
I bet a lot of people don't know that.
No, a lot of people don't know that, but that's the positive root of it. Is this issue is that's why we are infinite beings with an infinite future, and you would never believe that if you see some of the comments people write on social media and the way that people denigrate and put each other down. But it's again, this is living in wisdom with awe and reverence. Now, you may have some, you or somebody else may have some ideas which I think are ridiculous, but it's not. I don't think you're ridiculous. I'm saying that idea or that concept.
I can guarantee that I've got ideas that you will think are ridiculous.
I'm sure I have, and I have as well. But it's the ability to laugh at oneself and not take oneself too seriously is such an important skill of wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely. And people, I think, are so hungry for the opposite.
Yes.
I think so many people are.
Well, because they haven't got a foundation. I think that's the whole thing. So you'll look for importance somewhere else is what you'll do. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great points there, Sunil. Okay. So number 2, you are not important. Though I do think you are, but go on.
So we've said life is hard. You're not important. The third one is your life is not about you. And again, we live in a day and age where it's all about the individual. It's me and my rights. I need to choose. It's my body. I do what I want with it. Nobody can tell me what to do. I'm in charge. It's all about me. Me. And yet we are not islands on our own. We are connected. I'm the product of parents and grandparents and previous generations, and God willing, I've got 4 kids, and there'll be grandchildren and great grandchildren and future generations ahead of me. And the decisions and choices that I make, I'm not, again, one of the things is I'm a free agent. I decide for myself. Oh, come on. What about your upbringing in your past? Well, I don't allow, the things that happened to me in the past. Well, yes, you do. You've seen things in your life, maybe your parents, maybe we get het up about, my dad did this, my mother did this, my parents screwed me up this way, and I'm never going to do that again. I'm never going to allow that. Well, you're allowing yourself to be influenced. Whatever way you look at it.
Yes.
I mean, we don't have to be prisoners of our past. We can, as it were, through the gifts God has given us of self-awareness, we can, as it were, say, well, those are bad decisions. For example, my parents might have made that, and I'm not going to make those. But we make that with a cool, rational choice.
I've got a friend. It's actually a book, an audiobook we published called Just Leadership, and it's Justin Humphreys and Simon Barrington. And Simon Barrington said that if he had multi-million pounds, and he said, and he does actually say that anyone's welcome to give it to him. He said that
of course,
he actually said that the first thing he would do is actually give it to young people emerging into leadership roles or going and for counselling.
For therapy,
For therapy, just so they can get it all out. So they aren't led by their past. Because people, they don't realise, but they're holding it. They are holding it.
And then, I mean, in psychiatry, we talk about this in terms of transference and countertransference, in the sense that when you're in therapy with someone, or you say you're working somewhere, and there's an older man, for example, who you're finding quite difficult. It may well be because that older man reminds you of your father, who you had difficult relationships with, and their characteristics, their behavior is bringing something out of you that's actually treating it. It's not about the person. It's about somebody in your past, and you're projecting
Mm.
their attributes onto them. And so I think that's a great story you've just given there, because if I don't deal with my past, be that through therapy or through it's through some other way, then it's going to come back and haunt me, and I may not even be conscious that I'm doing it as well.
Season 2, we had a lot of discussions like this when we were discussing your book, Dancing with Wisdom,
Yes.
and we were very honest.
Yes.
And there was one particular podcast where I actually felt release
Oh wow.
through talking about it.
Yes.
And I think that to be brave enough to be honest
Yes.
with the right people.
Yes.
And opening up.
It has to be the right people. It has to be the right people, because there are people who would use it against you. I'm afraid to say, the world we live in. Yeah.
Yeah, shame, isn't it?
But I mean, but that's the fallen world. Part of being wise is knowing that there are all sorts of people in the world, and you have to be very careful, very, very careful who you open up to. And there's wisdom in friendship. We're going to have interviews with John Wyatt, and wisdom in friendships is really important. Yeah.
Well, I think it's also that separation between an acquaintance and a friend.
Yes, an acquaintance, a friend. Yeah. But I think, yeah.
Because you get a lot of people who do take. So I told you this before. So I had what appeared to be many a friend,
Yes.
and I realized, oh, actually, I'm the one making contact with them. I was
Okay.
like, how often do they call me? Hang on,
It's
when
not a
they
two-way
call me,
relationship, yeah.
what are they asking for? All right, they're asking for something. Okay, so that's not actually a friend. And I closed those doors, and I thought,
Yes.
I'm just not going to ring them anymore, and I'm going to put my
Yes.
focus on meaningful people
Meaningful
in my life.
relationships, yeah.
And it's beautiful.
Yes.
It's, you have to make that decision, but it's a beautiful thing.
Yes, that's right. And you don't have to be too upfront about it, but you can think, well, are these relationships, are they nurturing me, or are they draining me? Are they actually helpful? Are they putting me in a good place? Or after I leave, am I completely exhausted and angry or whatever? Those are decisions we have to make.
Number 4, Sunil.
Yeah, number 4 is that, again, hard truth is that you are not in control. And again, everything in our culture is trying to say to us, you can be in control. You can have the perfect house, the perfect job, the perfect family, all the money in the world, just press the button and it arrives, which, it's a wonderful thing. It's press the button and Amazon can deliver your whatever you want. And we're very privileged if we live in the West to have what we have. But the things that really matter, you're not in control of. You're not in control of necessarily. Obviously, you can do things to manage your health, but you can still get a horrible disease. People can let you down. People can betray you. You can trust somebody, and things can go all wrong.
I feel like I want to say you're not in control, but you can have respect.
Yeah.
For yourself.
You can have respect for yourself, and you can, in a sense, I think this is really about embracing the fact that I can do what I'm responsible for, but at the end of the day, I'm still not in charge. And again, the danger is, you see, what happens is, I mean, I'm a recovering control freak. Okay, again, just let me put my stuff out there. Is that what I've realized is I've tried. If I could, I would control everything. I would control everything in my schedule, and what I was doing, when I was doing it, who I was doing it with, and it would be very tightly regimented. The problem is, which I've slowly begun to realize, that even if I could do that, I wouldn't need God. I would be God. Okay, I would want to control the universe and have it go my way. And that's a dangerous place to be, because in a sense, that's way beyond my pay grade. Way beyond my pay grade. It's saying, okay, Lord, I will do what I can do under your sovereignty, from what I can see. But ultimately, it's up to you. It's that the problem arises, and this is what was happening to me when I tried to put myself in control. I would get angry and frustrated with people, angry and frustrated with myself, because, people would let me down, but I wouldn't even reach my own standards myself. And again, that's a recipe for becoming cynical, bitter, angry, and not a very nice person, really. But the ability to say, okay, this is what we lay before you. I think it's in James. It says it warns against business people saying, we'll go to this city and do business. We'll go there and do make this amount of money. But he says, no. What you should say, if the Lord wills, we'll do it. And so, you know, I like the phrase. I think I'm sort of going to another quote, but there's an Eisenhower quote: "Is that plans are useless, but planning is indispensable." So certainly have plans, have ideas, and we must have plans and ideas, but hold them lightly, because you never quite know what's going to happen next or where things are going to go.
Okay, so we're not in control.
Yeah.
So what's number 5?
Yeah. So just to cover, so life is hard. You're not important. Your life is not about you. You are not in control. And the real clincher at the end is you're going to die. Now, again, the younger you are, the less you believe it. You have health and strength, and the world almost feels like your oyster. You can do whatever you want. You can plow through, all-nighters and things like that. But the reality is, you and I are going to die. Is that it's all going to come to an end. Now, again, I'm not saying that to be morbid, but I think it's a truth. There's a famous quote: is that nothing concentrates the mind more than for a man to know that he's going to be hanged in 2 weeks. And by knowing that life is finite, you can, in a sense, make the most of the time that you've got, and really think, what do I want to make the most of what I've been given? I did done some podcasts. I think it's podcast number 49 and 50 with John Wyatt, and we called it "The Strange Adventure We Must All Take." And that is about what it means to die well. He's written a book called Dying Well, and to die well actually means to live well. And unfortunately, the wrong way to take it, is the famous phrase: is "eat, drink, and be merry, because tomorrow we die." So it's to live like a hedonistic lifestyle and say. And I think, one of the sad things I think we're going to see as we come out of COVID is we're going to see two kinds of people, but, broadly together. Those who say, well, I'm out of COVID now. We've got the freedom we've got, and I'm just going to let rip and just live, just enjoy myself in a hedonistic way. I think they talked about like the Roaring Twenties that happened after the end of World War One, is an incredible rise of hedonism. But a much healthier way is to remember that I'm an infinite being with an infinite future, and that death is not the end. And the choices I make are really important.
So by taking what you just said,
Yeah.
would it be a better phrase to say you're going to physically die?
You're going to, I think, you're going to physically die. Yeah, that's right. The health that we enjoy now, will be taken away from us. Everything's going to be lost. Everything's going to be taken. Was it when Rockefeller died, somebody asked, how much do you leave? And the reply was, he left all of it. He left everything.
Yes.
And again, we come, grasping, clinching, holding. Well, you're going to lose it all. And there is something about the rich simplicity. I think it talks in the Message translation of a Bible verse, which is not coming to mind, but the rich simplicity of being yourself. And you can't take money with you, but you can send it ahead. The choices and decisions, the friendships, the love that I show to others is what ultimately lasts. First of all, my love for God, in terms of understanding his love for me. We talk about being, relating, doing, leaving. And this is about the leaving part, the 4th section. The love that he has for me, the love he's shown me in Christ. He's come and given his life on the cross, and that through that sacrifice, I can have life in all its fullness and abundance. And so I live with that realization. But then it's, what do I do with what he's given me? How do I steward what he's given me? And so it's that realization that it's going to come to. One of the things he used to really scare me when I was younger was my dad would say to me is that when you take your exams, how you spend every minute of the day leading up to your exams is going to have to be accounted for. And it used to really freak me out. I've got to really study hard. But I thought, actually, as I got older, there is the ultimate exam coming about a complete evaluation of one's life. And we're all going to fail it, because in our own strength, we've all messed up in one way or another.
Yes.
But there's somebody who's actually lived, the Jewish carpenter has lived that life perfectly and given himself for us. And as I trust him, I can be secure that I'll get through that first test. But then it's going to be the question, what do you do with what I gave you? how much did you share that love in word and deed with others?
Yeah, that's key, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, sharing the good
Sharing the good, yeah.
and sharing the love.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's really important. We were having that chat earlier. I mean, obviously, I produce a lot of big name audiobooks, and I was saying that I get so many different opinions of perhaps the same subject.
Yes.
And it's wonderful because when I'm having chats with people, I'm able to spur on maybe some curveball questions and things like that. And it's really great. And they gain from that, I gain from that, and then that knowledge then gets passed on. But it's not necessarily knowledge. Knowledge is the wrong word.
Yeah.
Conversation is the right word. Because there's not a right answer.
No, and since you're the expert on you, and you have to think about, where does this apply to me, and what is, literally, what is God saying to me in my context, with my life, with my experiences, with my giftings, with my weaknesses? What is it that I'm that I'm being called to? And again, I think, I go back to it. It's Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10, is that we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which he has prepared in advance for us to do. And so I've got responsibilities to live the life that I'm called to live. I'm not called to be Elliot, okay? I'm not called to do what you're called to do. So I'm not in competition with you. And this goes back to the issue about, you're not important, but you've got responsibility for your life. You have to be the best Elliot Frisbee that God has created, okay? I've got to be the best Sunil Raheja that God has created, okay? And I want to encourage and inspire you to be the best version of you. I don't want you to be me. I want you to be the best version of me. So this is not a competition. This is me cheering you on, as it were, and helping you to grow into all that you're called to be.
Well, as we sort of come to the end of this podcast, and I do feel like this is another conversation we need to expand on as well. I really do.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. I felt so many questions.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to say to everybody, go out and be the best version of you.
Yes.
And spur people on to be the best version of them.
That's absolutely, yes. And there's a quote in I think it's in chapter 1, or in the introduction of Dancing with Wisdom, where from Nahum Bratslav, and he says, when I appear at the judgment seat on the last day, and God says to me, why were you not like Moses? He says, I won't be bothered. He says, why were you not like Moses, who led my people, or Elijah, who did all these amazing things? He says, that won't trouble me. But he says, well, why were you not Nahum? Why were you not the person I created you to be? He said, then I'll tremble from head to toe.
Yes.
Because, I mean, and so that's not, I think that's the key thing is, but we do that in relationship with the living God. That's what I think we need to really be passionate about, is that God is alive. He's with us here and now. And he's working through our weaknesses and stupidity and foolishness. And so, yeah, we're not in control. Those 5 truths as we come to an end. Yes, life is hard. You're not important. Your life's not about you. You're not in control. You're going to die, but God's got your back. He's with you. And that's what I want to say to you, and I want to say to our listeners and viewers. He's got your back, and he loves you more than you could ever imagine. We had that interview with Mark Green yesterday, and one of the truths that he holds on to is that God is kind. Behind a frowning providence, there is a smiling face, and as tough as life can be, he's shown his love to you in Christ. He's given everything for you, and he's just calling you to come to him.
Well, do you know what? Usually we do a little minute to round off, don't we? But I actually think you've just summarised beautifully.
Thank you.
The podcast, Sunil. It's just such a pleasure. I think it's been a really interesting topic. Let's talk more on it another time.
Yes, and if you want to leave any comments in the comment section or any questions, please feel free to do so.
And they can email you at
they can get from the website at drsunil.com. They can get me from there. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Sunil.
You've been listening to the Dancing with Wisdom podcast, presented by Sunil Raheja. For details on the Dancing with Wisdom book and its accompanying workbook, please visit drsunil.com. If you know someone who would enjoy this podcast, then please share it, give it a thumbs up on YouTube, and help it grow by leaving a nice review. Life's challenges can diminish, define, or develop you. Which will it be? Make sure you hunger for the wise one. The choice is yours.